Welcome to That's Good Sports. I'm Brandon. I'm cheating on the Broncos with the Indianapolis Colts this postseason Perna. It's going to be some gross beard-on-beard action, baby. And they've given us so many great quarterbacks, it only seems fair to pull for them in the AFC, especially because I can find a good reason to hate every other AFC playoff team. In the final game of the season, the Chargers defeated the Broncos 23-9 in a game where the Chargers honestly looked just as shitty as the Broncos, but somehow scored 14 more points than them. Typical 2018 Broncos season, right guys? Right? You know it's been a bad football game when you start the recap video by saying, the punter, Colby Wadman, had a great game. Wadmania even made Pro Football Focus's Team of the Week. Now, while we were all being awed by Colby Wadman's ability to drop the ball inside of the 10-yard line, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes was throwing his 50th touchdown pass of the season. By comparison, the Broncos have 37 passing touchdowns combined over the last 2 seasons between 4 quarterbacks. I do need to give a shout out to Broncos Europe for traveling all the way from Ireland.
7,000 miles.
Just so he can meet me for a couple hours and drink some beers before the Avalanche game that he almost missed.
£2,500 worth of airline and tickets and stuff like that there. That's good Broncos.
Check Broncos Europe out on YouTube. Also, subscribe here. It's the new year's starting. Better make it bad by subscribing. And I do have big dick Patreon shoutouts for Brandon Barron, nice name, and Creamy Chokes in the finals again. Please, Patreon's how this channel makes a living. Patreon.com/ThatsGoodSports if you're feeling generous. It's how I survive in the off season and keep the heat turned on in my cold, cold heart. Now, before I half-assedly review this game, I have some news to break, which I discovered via Broncos Reddit. A question was posed on regular Reddit asking, who was/is the big man on campus at your school? Where is he now? To which someone answered, he was a football/wrestling star who also slept with the principal's daughter, and that man was the one and only Andy Janovich. He was the only man to score with the principal's daughter, and he was the only man to score a touchdown in the Broncos season finale. Andy Janovich. Keep him away from your daughter, especially if you're a principal. Wait, no. That makes it sound like he still sleeps with high schoolers. That's not what I meant. In no way would that be cool. The thing that sucks, well, at 6-10, I can think of 10 things that really sucked about the Broncos this season, but in the final game, there were 2 plays that occurred. That when they happened, I said, that's the Broncos season in a nutshell. Now, the first came immediately following that principal fucker's beautiful touchdown, which was ruined by an interception on the 2-point conversion and then returned 100 yards for a 2-point swing in the Chargers' favor. That is the 2018 Broncos season demonstrated in 2 plays, I said to myself, since I watched the games alone. But then, River Cracraft, in the process of performing a pretty good kick return, somehow fumbled the ball so it perfectly just stopped, dead, right before going out of bounds, into the realm of safety. What football god did John Elway piss off to rain this down upon us? This is the shit you will see happen every week in New England when Belichick finally retires. I promise you that. I didn't know how Cray fumbled. I sure as hell can't explain the ball just stopping right there, other than the air of a devil's fart keeping it in bounds. Now, Denver started the game with an onside kick. They didn't recover it, but I liked the move. Week 17 in general is always fun because so many teams are doing crazy trick plays as they have nothing to lose, like former Broncos kicker Matt Prater throwing touchdown passes, or if you're the Bears, playing all of your starters just to cream the Vikings so Broncos fans can feel better about signing Case Keenum and not making a real push to pursue Kirk Cousins and his $84 million guaranteed money that got him zero playoff chances this season. The Broncos finished the first quarter of the Chargers game with more interceptions, 2, than first downs, 1. And that was due to a Chargers penalty. which is another example of 2018 for the Broncos, needing help to do anything offensively. The Broncos outside the Cardinals game could never sustain success or close out games. The Broncos offense failed to get any points off of those first two interceptions from Isaac Yiadom and Will Parks, which makes it a lot harder for me to make fun of Phillip Rivers for playing like Blake Bortles Peterman. Speaking of Phillip Rivers throwing interceptions, Will Parks said after the game that Rivers called him a mother freaker after he picked him off. I'm sure you know by now, but Phillip Rivers does not swear. It's part of the reason I've never related to him on a human level, but I think mother freaker might be more offensive than motherfucker. If someone says I freaked with your mother last night, that brings up way more disturbing visuals than fucking. Oh yeah. Garrett Bowles, much like Vance Joseph, continued to earn honors in the records nobody wants category. Bowles finished in the top 10 for most penalized players this season for a second year in a row. The real issue is Bowles' penalties. They seem to always come once the Broncos pass the 50-yard line. He wasn't the only one holding on Sunday, but it was his name I remember when they stung the most. I think Denver finished the game with like 6 holding penalties. I stopped counting and honestly watching after 6. Even the no-name announcers couldn't believe all of the penalties.
And it will be a holding penalty.
Oh my goodness.
Rayshawn Jenkins was there on the coverage.
But this is as clear as day. Garrett Bowles again. 5 holding penalties, unreal.
Those back-to-back holding penalties set up a 1st and 30, which of course was answered with a shitty backwards pass from Case Keenum that was fumbled and returned to the house by the Chargers, giving them a 7-0 lead. Look, I don't think Case Keenum is a good NFL QB. He can be serviceable, and when he threw this 45-yard pass to River Cracraft, he cannot be blamed for Daesean Hamilton dropping a go-ahead touchdown, Matt LaCosse letting a pass bounce through his hands and then get intercepted, and another drop that forced Denver to settle for a field goal. I also remember Courtland Sutton stretching out for a deep ball that he couldn't hold on to in this game. Again, that failed touchdown drive was in no way Case Keenum's fault. But the guys who separate themselves as good NFL quarterbacks make up for bad drives later in the game, right? With Keenum, I have no confidence he's going to make up for lost points, regardless if it's his fault or other players' fault. And that was true before the Broncos offense was decimated by injuries this season. With Case Keenum, you need elite receiving weapons, which Denver does not have, a flawless defense like Minnesota had last season, and a good run game, the only thing the Broncos mostly had this season. If you don't have that, he's a 6-10 quarterback, which sucks, because I think everyone in Denver likes Case Keenum, and we were all excited to get him, but he turned out to be like the Apple Pippin, an overpriced thing that couldn't game. All that said, Denver was only down 7-3 to a playoff team heading into halftime. Now, if you missed it, please check out my Broncos season recap video. Trust me, it's not painful, and it will help you accomplish all of the personal goals you have in life, while also killing 9 minutes of your time that you can afford to lose. 300 rushing yards to Belial Powell and Isaiah Crowell. Are they good? Elway should have moved up to 3 to get Darnold. Should have got himself some Darnold. The no-fly zone's dead. Should be called the Mile High Club, because everybody's scoring. 52-80? Yeah, that's how many yards the Broncos defense gave up this week. And the highlight of the Broncos game may have been the halftime show, the mutton thing. I'm not a cowboy, so I don't know what riding sheep is actually fucking called, but we should credit Vance Joseph for being able to hold on to his job longer than these kids at the Mile High halftime show. After halftime, honestly, I felt a great peace, as I finally know what I want to do with my life. I want to be the guy who sits next to John Elway in the press box and looks through binoculars for him. John would be like, "What do you see down there, Brandon?" And I'd kiss his ass a little bit. "Well, John, I see a lot of not you at quarterback." He'd laugh, of course, and then say, "What else do you see?" "Well, if I look past Garrett Holds and an offense decimated by injuries, I see a struggling quarterback who can only be successful if everyone around him is very good. Then Elway would ask, you think Case is playing that bad, Brandon? And I'd say to him, no, I was talking about Phillip Rivers. Oh boy, it would be fun. Then I'd say, oh, cool. Here, check out these shirts the diehard fans are wearing today, Elway. Elway would look, and then we would laugh and laugh and laugh. Even though we lost, we would laugh all the way home until we fell asleep on our piles of money. I ain't doing that job for free, Elway, but I will do it well. Also, all that laughter would have distracted Elway from seeing wide receiver Tim Patrick having the ball ripped away from him like a baby in The Handmaid's Tale. That forced fumble led to a Chargers touchdown, but even with the lead, the Chargers continued to back their asses into the playoffs a la Tim Tebow. Phillip Rivers knows how to send his seed downstream. It's why he's called Rivers. But handling a slightly low snap is out of his capabilities. They just look like a team ready to get annihilated by the Ravens on Saturday. LA went on to win this game 23-9. Vance was fired the next day, today, and the only thing we know for certain is when you give Jano the ball, good things happen. Whoever the Broncos hire as their next head coach, they better understand that. Earlier, I showed you 2 plays representative of the Broncos season. And more tragically, I can show you 1 play representing Geno Smith's entire career. That's right, the Broncos were so out of this game, Phillip Rivers got to rest on the sideline while Geno Smith made phantom throws. So goodbye 2018, hello 2019. Hopefully the Broncos are better, hopefully all of your lives improve, and hopefully John Elway isn't crazy, and I brought the plaid on plaid back to give the Broncos some good fucking luck this offseason. That's all they really need. Magically find the right coach, magically get your franchise quarterback, and all problems in Denver Broncos football will be solved. And I believe it can happen. Come on, Elway, let me look through those binoculars for you. You want to look into somebody's window? I'll do it. Thanks for watching another episode of That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. The season for the Broncos is over, but That's Good Sports has got a lot of playoff videos to cover. Give Will Keys a follow on Twitter at WillKeys6. He's been a huge help this season to me. Podcast will be back up on Thursday. iTunes, Podbean, That's Good Sports Podcast. Download it, listen.